Thank you, Lisa. Chris Stevens, MP and the MP for Glasgow South West, and obviously within that constituency is the new Southern General Hospital. I'll continue to call it the Southern General and not by any other name. So I'm aware of the parking issues in relation to that, both within the hospital and in the local community. I'm aware also of health workers who have been making representations not just to my office but to other agencies in relation to asylum accommodation. That's the poor accommodation for asylum seekers when health workers are out doing their rounds, and obviously if there is work that you might want to do with me with that, I'm more than happy to help. And obviously you'll be aware that the shipyards are in that constituency, and your Unite colleagues have been liaising with on a regular basis as they're waiting on the MOD to fulfil promises they made 2 years ago to cut steel and to start building frigates. You'll also know perhaps one of your colleagues in Unite, who's the Vice Chair of the Scottish Youth Committee, Rosa Sally, also known as one of the Glasgow girls, is one of my employees and is doing a great job in terms of highlighting trade union issues to me, and there's a natural link with Unite there, so that I'm well aware of the issues. I think, like Lisa, if it wasn't for the skills and experiences that I had developed in 20 years of trade union activity, then I wouldn't be where I am today. And that's in terms of having that experience of being a representative and having that representation experience of arguing for workers day and daily, being used to the fact that it's a 24/7 job, and being woken up on Boxing Day at 7 AM with a member with a problem and having to deal with those sorts of issues. And that's the sort of things that we all have to do as a trade union rep. We do get phone calls late at night or very early in the morning with people in a panic looking at those issues. I'll maybe just go through some of the issues I'm dealing with. I'm the party spokesperson for trade unions and workers' rights. So there's a lot of issues to get into. As Lisa explained, both Lisa and myself led on the trade union bill. And I have to say that was a fascinating experience, because one of the first things that hit you when at Westminster is the class division, and it really is in your face when you look across at the other side of the chamber and see these Tories whose notion of what a trade union is or what a workplace is quite frankly bizarre. It was news to the Minister when I pointed out to him that in a strike ballot that a trade union will put an insertion and with the ballot paper to outline the reasons why the ballot's taking place and what the dispute is. The Minister responded to me at committee and said, well, that's a good thing that should be encouraged. And it was like, no, well, that's what trade unions do. So there's no need for this sort of regulation. And is it not ironic that the Tory view of the economy is to deregulate the economy, but when it comes to their opponents, when it comes to the trade union movement, that we should be subjected to rigorous regulation? It was also news to them that workers in the workplace aren't bullied by trade union reps into going on strike, and pointing out how actually difficult it can be to persuade fellow trade union members to go and dispute. The notion seemed to have been that trade union members don't really participate in the ballot because they don't want to go on strike, but then after the ballot result, trade union activists somehow develop Jedi-like powers where we just go around these workplaces, wave our hand and say this is the strike you're looking for. That was the sort of notion that they were getting into in terms of that. Now, we did get some wins in it. The first win that we actually got in the SNP was to change some of the picketing rules that they were going to apply, because I was very concerned about the picketing arrangements that the Tories were outlining, because my view was it was going to be a new blacklist. You might as well, if you're on that picket line, have two armbands, one with your stewards credentials and the other one saying please blacklist me. So we managed to change some of that. There are still some challenges. I think that it was clear to me that the device used for setting parameters and percentages in terms of how many people have to vote, and all of that is still a challenge, and it is deliberately designed to stop industrial action. And I'm clear in that view because although we've had some concessions about allowing trade unions to start a pilot on electronic balloting, they shouldn't be opposed to electronic balloting. They should be opposed to electronic ballot, and when Tory party pick their own candidates for election through electronic balloting. So it's good enough for them to pick their candidates, then surely it's good enough for trade unions. And both Lisa and I also argued for workplace balloting. Because if it's acceptable in a workplace to have a workplace ballot for trade union recognition, then surely a trade union should have the right to carry out workplace balloting for industrial action or any other decisions that it makes. So there's still some work there to be done, and obviously we'll see what the government tried to do in terms of agency workers as well, because their original proposals were that they could bring in agency workers to effectively bust a strike. And I think that they've still to make up their views known on that, but that will obviously be rigorously opposed by us. Some of the other issues that we're dealing with, which are now ongoing, is the lack of minimum wage enforcement. I don't know if you've read on this, but last year there were 209,000 workers across the United Kingdom who had not been paid the minimum wage. And the Tories' response to that is the very agency which is responsible for enforcing the minimum wage is HMRC, and the government are proposing to close 90% of the HMRC offices across the UK. And I think that's going to make it very difficult for minimum wage enforcement of tax and all of those issues to take place. But I think that's a shocking statistic that 209,000 workers aren't getting paid the minimum wage, and that's something that we will continue to campaign on. You'll also be aware, and there's cross-party work being done on this, is that there's been an increase in maternity discrimination and discrimination against pregnant workers who are being made redundant or sacked, and all of those issues. That's ongoing work that's getting done at Westminster, and I think over the next year or two that will continue to be an issue that we will certainly want to raise, because it's quite clearly happening and is on the increase. We're also dealing with issues in terms of blacklisting. Called for a public inquiry, UK-wide public inquiry in blacklisting, because we know of you'll be aware of recent court cases which your colleagues in Unite and other trade unions were involved in. I think that there should now be a public inquiry. For a number of reasons. We know that the construction industry blacklist was discovered, but we all know that there's other blacklists out there. We know there's a blacklist certainly in the supermarket sector. There's blacklists been operating in other sectors of the economy as well. And I've got a holding response from the Department of Business and Skills in relation to that. I know that there's other investigations taking place. So we're dealing with that as well, and that's a major piece of work that I will be continuing to campaign on while I'm at Westminster. And the other issue I think that we're dealing with, I think across the board, and certainly every SNP MP has had to write to asylum seekers and EU nationals, is I think we're very concerned at the rise in racism that's taken place over the last few months, particularly in relation to some of the tone and rhetoric that took place around the EU referendum. Now, I take a very simple view on this. I don't think you can point to someone who's less fortunate than us and suggest that they're to blame for society's problems. It's the establishment and the current government who are to blame for austerity and a lot of those problems. And I think that there is a piece of work which I would encourage all trade unions to take part in terms of some of the tone and rhetoric that took place in the last few weeks, and some of that vile UKIP poster that was advertised a week before the EU referendum was something that wouldn't have looked out of place in 1930s Germany. And I think that we do need to tackle that head on and say that that sort of tone and rhetoric isn't acceptable. We share this planet with fellow human beings. We should be looking after each other, no blaming each other because of the colour of their skin or where they're from. So that's just some of the issues that I've been dealing with. Look forward to working with the NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde Unite branch, and if there's anything that we can do for you, please get in touch and we'll do everything we can for you. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.